Shadow of the past in a quiet Atlanta suburb in Georgia, where tall pines cast shadows over manicured lawns, lived Michael and Laura Davis. He was 38, a financial analyst at a big firm. She was 35, an English teacher at the local high school. Married for 10 years, their passion had faded, but they stayed together for habit and their 8-year-old daughter, Sophie. On the surface, life was steady. Family dinners, school meetings, park walks. But beneath it all, something dark was brewing, waiting to break free. Prologue. The first cracks it began in September, when Michael noticed Laura staying late at work more often. She blamed school projects, play rehearsals, parent meetings. Michael, buried in his reports, didn't think much of it at first. But one night, he woke to the soft ding of her phone. She silenced it quickly and went back to sleep. The screen glowed with a notification. "See you tomorrow, don't forget." Michael didn't wake her, but the next morning, he asked who texted. "A colleague about rehearsal," she said, avoiding his eyes. Something in her tone set him on edge. A week later, he found a receipt in her purse from a florist, $50 for a bouquet of roses, paid in cash. Laura hated roses, and there were none at home. Doubt pricked at him, but Michael didn't jump to conclusions. He was an analyst. Facts came first. Chapter 1. The nighttime visitor one evening. When Laura said she was off to a school meeting, Michael decided to check. He left Sophie with their neighbour, Mrs. Clare, and followed Laura's blue Honda. It didn't head to the school, but to a residential area across town. She parked outside a small house with curtained windows. Michael pulled over at a distance and watched her walk in without knocking, as if she'd done it before. Moments later, the lights inside dimmed. He waited an hour, fighting the urge to storm in. Finally, the door opened. Laura emerged with a man, lean, with a short beard and a denim jacket. They hugged, and Michael saw the man slip her something small, like a box. Laura drove off. The man stayed. Michael didn't follow her home. He needed to know who this was. Chapter 2. Who is Jake? The next day, Michael returned to the house. He knocked, posing as a neighbour, and the man answered. "Can I help you?" he asked with a faint smile. Michael lied about a lost dog and casually asked his name. "Jake," the man replied. Michael noted his features. Brown eyes, a scar above his brow, a slight southern drawl. At home, he dug deeper. The school directory had no Jake. He checked Laura's social media, stale for years, but an old post from her high school graduation showed her with a guy resembling Jake. Caption: "With my best friend, Jacob, before a new life." Michael remembered her mentioning a school friend she'd lost touch with. Why hide him now? He called his buddy Tony, an ex-cop turned private investigator. Tony agreed to help. "Give me a couple days and I'll figure out who this Jake guy is." Chapter 3. Peeling back layers, Tony returned 3 days later with intel. Jake Hartman, 36, was an auto mechanic in Atlanta. Single, no kids, but with a shady past. 5 years ago, he'd served 2 years for credit fraud. For the past 6 months, he'd lived in that house Laura visited. Tony added, "He's not just an old friend. I saw them holding hands at a cafe. And here's the kicker, someone was tailing me while I dug." Black sedan, plates obscured. Michael was floored. Cheating was one thing, but this felt bigger. He decided to confront Laura, but first planted a hidden camera in her car. Ordered online. The next week's footage confirmed it. Laura went to Jake twice, and in one clip he said, "If he finds out about the money, it's over." What money? It's over. What money? Michael planned a trap. Chapter 4. The mystery box. Michael faked a business trip. He told Laura he'd be gone 3 days, drove off in Tony's car, and left his phone at home with GPS on to trick her into thinking he was far away. In reality, he checked into a nearby motel and staked out Jake's house. On the second day, Laura showed up. Through binoculars, Michael saw her hand Jake an envelope. He gave her that small box again. That night, he sneaked to the house and planted a microphone under the window. The next morning's recording revealed, "We're almost at the amount." "A couple more months and he won't suspect a thing," Jake said. Laura replied, "I hate this, but we've got no choice." Michael realized it was about money. Big money. He checked their joint account, untouched. Then it hit him. Sophie's trust fund, set up by her grandmother. Only Laura had access. A bank call confirmed it. $80,000 had been siphoned off in small transfers over 6 months. Laura was stealing from their daughter, but why? Chapter 5. The third player. As Michael pieced it together, Tony called. That sedan showed up again. I tracked it. A woman, about 40, Carol Wilson. Jake's ex. She knows their plan. Michael found Carol in a dive bar on the city's edge. Posing as a stranger, he bought her drinks until she spilled. Jake promised me a cut, but now he's with that teacher. They think I don't know their scheme. Carol revealed Jake and Laura plan to flee with the trust fund's remainder. Another $120,000, using forged documents. Carol had been shadowing them, hoping to blackmail Jake for her share. Michael knew he had to act fast. Chapter 6. The reckoning. Michael went home and confronted Laura. He laid out the car footage, bank records, and photos of her with Jake. She broke down. It's not what you think. Jake's blackmailing me. He has letters I wrote him as a teen. He threatened to expose that I helped with his fraud back then. Michael didn't buy it. He called the cops and handed over the evidence. Jake was arrested that night. Police found fake documents and some of the cash at his place. Laura faced charges but was released on bail. Carol vanished, taking her cut from Jake's stash. Epilogue. Her fresh start. Michael divorced Laura and won full custody of Sophie. He transferred to a new firm and moved to Savannah, far from the past shadows. Laura stayed in Atlanta, trying to rebuild her bond with Sophie, but Sophie didn't want to see her. Jake got 7 years, and part of the trust fund was recovered. Sometimes Michael looked at an old family photo and wondered how love could twist into such a web of lies. But now he had Sophie, and that was all that mattered.